Welcome to the Our Father Stories podcast, where we share stories of ordinary people experiencing the kingdom of God in everyday life. That's connected to our mission here at Our Father, helping ordinary people know and share extraordinary life in Christ. This is simply a way to tell stories about how God's kingdom is breaking through in our ordinary lives. You're an ordinary guy.
Hey, sure am.
My good friend Micah Steiner.
I feel really ordinary.
Do you?
Yeah, you know why?
Tell me why.
You know why. Nate and I were watching the final game of the March Madness tournament
That's
just 4 days from the recording of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Nate had a chance to bring home our coveted trophy in the office pool.
Yeah.
Houston was 20 seconds away from a victory. Not only did they not get a shot off, Nate lost his shot at the trophy, and Pastor Kelly Crabb, who didn't watch a single game of college basketball all year.
No, we didn't.
Won for the second time in a row.
In a row. That's right. Yeah.
Nate and I actually care about sports. We watch college basketball. We text each other about said games. We meticulously put our brackets together with great thought and care.
Meticulous.
And Kelly walks up, ooh, Florida, and wins the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough.
So I'm feeling ordinary.
Yeah. Speaking of ordinary, you want to know what else is ordinary about this? Is that our trophy is a hand-me-down trophy from Micah's wife, Amanda, when she scored her 1,000th point playing Michigan, basketball in high school.
Yeah.
And so we have the trophy from that, and we have a little placard that we just printed and put a piece of paper and put the names on for the last 10 years.
It's a big deal. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a good, as I like to say about that little placard, to have your name written on it. It's not the book of life.
Oh.
But it's close.
It's close.
That's right. Speaking of ordinary, our guest today isn't the ordinary kind of guest who we have on here. Usually it's people from Our Father sharing the things they're learning, the ways they've growing, how they've seen God break through in their life as a way of just saying, no, he's still on the move today.
Yeah.
Tell us about our guest. We talk about sharing extraordinary life, different kind of life.
My friend Atkelt, he's become a friend over the last 2 years since I've got to know him. He is the strategic development partner with Children's Hope Chest, our newest minted mission partner. We're going to, in a couple weeks here, depending on when you watch this, unleash, that's the wrong word.
Unveil?
Unveil. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
reveal?
Back to the thing.
Yeah.
The opportunity for you to get involved with Children's Hope Chest. It's about transforming a community in Mojo, Ethiopia, about an hour away from the capital city of Addis Ababa. And Atkelt is going to share his story. He was a product of an aid ministry like Children's Hope Chest with a little bit different twist, and how you can get involved and the power that this ministry is having in Ethiopia.
So we can't wait. Let's check it out and listen to his story now.
Hello, my name is Atkelt, and I work at Children's Hope Chest, and I've been with Children's Hope Chest for 6 years, living Colorado Springs, and my role at Children's Hope Chest, I'm the Strategic Partnership Director.
Strategic Partnership Director.
Yes.
And what does that mean?
Yeah, so I primarily work with our existing partners, cultivating the relationships, the partnership, but also advancing, the Ministry of Children's Hope Chest with new, churches, new partnerships.
Can I summarize? Atkelt takes me out to really good Ethiopian restaurants. That's what Atkelt does. And you're very good at it, sir.
Oh,
Sounds like a great gig.
Atkelt, so glad that you could join us today. You have an incredible story. Not born in the United States. I know the story. Nate doesn't. Our audience doesn't. Would you tell us? What's your background? Where'd you come from? How'd you get here? All that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, to share my story. It's a blessing. It's a pleasure. I grew up in Ethiopia. That's where I grew up. And so in Addis Ababa, that's the capital city. It's a big city. When I was growing up, it's in one of the impoverished, parts of the city. And so I have 3 siblings, so 4 of us at home. And then, my parents. I was blessed to have a Christian family. My parents are strong, believers, and so that was a huge blessing for me and for my siblings. The challenge, for us as a family at that time was the economic problems that we were facing as a family. Like both my mom and dad working hard to meet ends and working hard. But with all the four kids, that was a struggle for them. That was hard. One thing about them, they were from the south part of the country, moved to the north, for work, and then it was during the civil war at that time in Ethiopia. They were in the north, so they decided it would be better if we go to the center of the country. So they ended up in a big city, which they didn't have a lot of people, a lot of support systems. So the church was actually their community, their family.
Cool.
And so, I forget, is it Coptic? Did they grow up Coptic as well?
No, evangelical.
Okay.
Evangelical. Yeah, they were evangelical Christians. So they are, in the South. Their parents came to the Lord, got introduced to the Lord through the missionaries that were ministering in the South, and so they had that background growing up, and so evangelical Christians, and so it's during that time a sponsorship organization comes to our local church. And so, my mom hears about this opportunity, and she just took three of my siblings, and we go to the church, and it's like, we heard about this, we want to sign up. And then they told her like, hey, just only one, because we're trying to reach as many families. And so she had to choose, and I was the one, she was like, I was the one. So, and so I got enrolled into the program. And so at that time I was 9 years old, and third grade. So got into the program, and and that was just an amazing blessing.
So third grade.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. There's multiple ministries happening in Ethiopia, things like World Vision and Compassion.
Yes.
And we'll talk about how a Hope Chest is different. There's a slightly different good twist to them. So your third grade, how'd that work with your family? Was that a huge blessing?
Yeah, for primarily focused on me, right? But of course, there are some things that my family was blessed through, me being in the program, when there are grains and meals and blankets and things, we share as a family whatever is given to us, and I remember that I received my first Bible, my own Bible. Right? We had family Bibles, right, and all that. But I have my own Bible. I was given through the program. So and school, medical support, just in many different ways. So above and beyond just meeting this basic needs, one thing that was really powerful for me was just the relationship that I got to build with people, that are ministering to us. And one of these people actually did not live in the community, and they lived in England. They were thousands of miles away from me, and so that was something that really in my mind of a child, right? Why would this family in England care about me, and so and then I could see their commitment, Gillian and Derek Turner. So I received letters on regular basis. They were pretty good about, engaging me, wanting to learn about me and really appreciating me, paying attention to the things that I'm writing, and just letting me into their life. I knew about them. They, gave me prayer requests to pray, and I did also share, so we had a very good relationship. And so I could see really this is a divine provision, because these people live very far away from me. These are God sent people who cared about me and showing me God's love. And so that was powerful. And so I stayed in the program for about 9 years. And so they were the only sponsors that I had, and their letters, I still have their letters. I still keep them.
You showed them to me,
I think
actually.
I showed them to you, because they are packed with a lot of words of encouragement, a lot of like, we believe in you, keep up the good work. I like school and, all that. And I remember one time I wrote them in English, I think when I was in high school. And I knew that they're going to be like very, excited to receive my first English letter, and so that Gillian replied to me and was like, "Whoa, I was so surprised when I received your letter. It was in English." And so that gave me like, hey, they do, they love to see me progressing and growing, in my faith, in my, school and all that. And so that was such a blessing, that the connection, the relationships that God has brought into my life through this.
Did you meet them face to face? I can't remember.
I have not.
Okay.
Wow.
I have not.
Cool.
Yes. So maybe, maybe one of these days. So we still keep in touch, with them. But that's on its own story. But those letters, I still keep them, remind me of God's goodness and how, he brought them into my life, and that I could tell my story, to other people. And today I am a child, advocate, not only for children in Ethiopia, but around the world, for countless vulnerable children in communities. And so they have played a role in that, just igniting that passion and that calling, for me to be in the things and the ministry that I am involved in, the things that I am doing today.
Yeah.
So, my story, goes a lot connected to what what I had
the
in
care
my
you received.
Yes. Yeah.
So you were in the program for 9 years. What does that make you? Sophomore in high school? Graduate from high
When
school?
I finished, I graduated from high school. So that
Okay.
was the 18 kind of, that was the, at that time for the sponsorship organization, 18 was the age.
Okay. When you age out.
When you age out. And so I followed through my school, so I was able to, finish high school. So I did well. There's this national exam, high-stake national exam in Ethiopia, and but I did well, and I got the opportunity to go to college after that.
Yeah.
So
Actually, I think this is interesting because it's different than what we do in the States. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you take the exam and then they tell you where to go to college, right?
Yes.
And they place you in the city, in the town, or the state.
Right.
Or region.
Where regions where you go, and fields of study. I mean, they would try to get your, like, what your interest, but with the limited, so they have to do it. Sometimes it's based on your GPA and things like that. But if maybe there are more people who want to be like, certain professions that students
cool
are attracted to, the cool things.
Yeah.
But yes.
They're different in the States, where at least some people have the ability to choose where they want to go, and others it's based on an academic aid or whatever. But how did you end up in the States?
Yeah,
that's a good question. That's a long story. How much time do you have? But so in the States would be. So I was working for Compassion Ethiopia after, I was studying and got the opportunity to work for Compassion Ethiopia.
Which, by the way, so now that you've said it, I can say it. That's who
that was the organization.
I didn't want to say it. I didn't know if it was a competing organization and we had to, keep them out. I don't know. But you've said it, so we can say it. You grew up that you were a Compassion kid.
I was a Compassion kid.
Okay.
That's right.
Thank you.
And so then after I finished, I actually worked for Compassion Ethiopia there. And so I met my wife in Ethiopia. So she is a missionary from Colorado, Greeley, Colorado. And so she was serving there about 2 years before we actually met. So 2 years in Addis, in the same town, our paths haven't crossed. But she also worked with a similar ministry, kind of child development and all that. But one week, our paths crossed like 3 times, in different occasions, like 2 times at church, 1 time while I was, working. And so it was interesting how God, crossed our paths, and, So that's kind of how we, started our relationship.
Random meetings.
Random meetings, but it's just orchestrated by God. We always look back and we're like, that's incredible. Like, how, like how God has orchestrated for us to meet, and so we started, dating, and so like in about 2 years, we got married after, 2 years after we met.
In Ethiopia
and so
or in the United States?
we got married in Ethiopia.
Okay.
So we have an Ethiopian wedding, and so we had to do all the cultural, like,
yeah,
right?
it's a big deal.
Those,
Yeah.
So we got married there. We had our son, who's 10 now. Like he was. We came here to have him, and then went back to Ethiopia. So when he was a baby, but and then when he was about 9 months old is when we decided to move to the U.S. So it's a lot. It's got to do with my wife, who is from Colorado, and and our family. So that's how I ended up in Colorado. There's a lot into it, but just high level, short.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. One thing that is really interesting about, at least in Addis and Mojo, that I can tell is high level. A lot of people are Christians. Coptic, of course, a lot of different tenets of theology, but Lutheran, Evangelical, Baptist, Pentecostal. It's like everybody goes to church there, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very religious people, Ethiopians. Like even like we have in the Christian community. Just fearing God, very religious, very devout. You'd see that, in that, in the evangelical church, but also in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which is Coptic. So yeah, absolutely. And you see that in the holidays. And I don't know if you were able to be in those events, or you would get,
Yeah, there was it was some Coptic celebration, and the women were wearing these crazy dresses, really pretty dresses, and very ornate and covered.
Yes.
By the way, I didn't tell you this. We went to the market, went to the post office on my last trip.
Yes.
Nate knows this. I purchased for $20 a secret map to the real Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, here we go.
So I have it.
You have it. Yeah.
I don't know how to decipher it yet.
Yeah, when people hear this, I think they'll get a documentary on that.
We're gonna do it maybe for the next trip.
Bonus episode.
Well, the next
We'll tell you more.
The next episode.
In our Patreon subscribers.
That's right. Okay, so you're in America. You're married. You have a kid. When did Hope Chest come into play? How'd you find out about Hope Chest?
Yes.
When did you start working for them?
Yeah. So Hope Chest, I knew about Hope Chest in Ethiopia because we're in the same space working, and so one of the first Hope Chest country director, actually, I used to work with him. So even though I didn't know the differences or our approaches and all that, I knew as an organization that Hope Chest works in Ethiopia. So I come to the U.S. and then I went to school. So I went to CSU and studied this program. It's a global social sustainable enterprise. And so
say that one more time. What is it?
Global social sustainable enterprise.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So it's like it's an MBA program, but it's like a really cool program because it focuses on it's like business, right? But it's not all about the bottom line, like social justice and sustainability, environment. So even like as a business to succeed in this day and time, you need to put all these things into consideration.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's a lot of that, what I have learned in that business school. And so, I finished that. And after I graduated, I was looking for ministry opportunities, I was praying God to give me a ministry opportunity where my story is relevant, where my experience, and the gifts, the talents, what God has given me would be useful, for where I would be. And so I would start looking, for opportunities, and I come across Hope Chest, and I was like, I know Hope Chest, and started learning more, right, about researching more about the organization. And I was like really blown away by how everything was articulated about community transformation, community development, the sustainability piece, which I just went through at school. That was a cool program. It just didn't have Jesus and like the core thing in it, but it's great principles, right? But then when I learned, Hope Chest actually does these things in a way it empowers people, and it works towards transformation and sustainability. That got my attention. That drew me to I would love to work for this organization if the Lord opens the door, and he did, and that was 6 years ago, and since I started working for Children's Hope Chest, and being in different roles, but it's been such a blessing, and I'm blessed to be working for an organization that's making a big difference around the world. Yeah.
Atkelt, I've been to Christian concerts where they pause and they make the pitch for compassion. You are working for Children's Hope Chest. How is that different than the kind of things that some of our listeners may be more familiar with? What makes Children's Hope Chest unique?
Yeah, so there are several things that are different in our approach wise. Start from that. We are a child-centric community development organization. And I believe or from my experience, my understanding, compassion is more child focused. And so with Children's Hope Chest, it's we start with the children, but it doesn't stop there. There is families, and there's community. So Hope Chest has intentionally works to lift up the whole family, to lift up the whole community.
Cool.
And so, and also the sustainability piece, that we're not staying in a community, forever. There is an exit strategy, and the goal is for the community to graduate, to be able to do it on their own.
Yeah. Cool.
And so and then there's a community development plan. There's a clear strategy on how we achieve that. How we achieve that sustainability. And so those things are clearly defined. And we do also work with the church as Compassion does. And the church is most of our care points. Care points are where we care for the children and for the community. And oftentimes our care points operate out of local churches, but there's a lot of alliances. If you want to bring about community transformation, you also need to work with different stakeholders in the community. So that intentionality and strategy and alliance to work with different stakeholders in the community. So that is just a difference in approach. And also, okay,
Can I
go
ask you a
ahead.
follow-up?
Sorry. Okay.
And so as a follow-up, what are some of the kinds of care points? Give us some examples, because as I understand that Mike has described, they're kind of unique to each community, right? What are some things that you guys are up to?
Right. So care points can be unique. Every community is different, right? Their needs might be different. Their assets might be different. Like the Hope Chest approach is actually asset-based community development, because there are needs, but focusing on the assets, that's what we build on if we really want to make a lasting difference. Sometimes when we are meeting needs, right, and we're just meeting needs and going, but if we want to see a lasting difference, it's like what's the strengths of the community, so that is differs. So it's not like a cookie cutter. It's like this is a care point. This is how we do it. It needs to come from the local indigenous leaders. They actually put together the development plan, of course, with our country staff in Ethiopia. So what we do in Ethiopia, there is standard, there's approach, right? Those things are in place, but there is room for contextualizing and allowing the indigenous leaders actually, to define what their vision is. So in Guatemala, it's different than Ethiopia. How some of those approaches, those implementations would be from Uganda, or even in Ethiopia, you have urban areas. You have rural areas like Mojo, for example, would be more urban. It's pretty close to Addis, and so there's a big dry port, and there's a lot of trade and a lot of activities going in that. So it's different from another care point that's in a rural area. So that all needs to be customized by the individual leaders, what their visions are, what their assets are, and how they are going to achieve that transformation and sustainability.
Well, like in Mojo, for example, the city that we're going to partner with, the community, there's a high level of prostitution because women find themselves in need of raising kids and finding money. And so these truck drivers come in and they spend the night, and the industry has developed as a result of that. One of the key leaders, whose name I'm forgetting, told her story. She has HIV, raising 3 daughters of her own. Through that care point, through the very beginning of the care point, now she has her own business. Her daughter has a business selling coffee, and now there's a third business being developed. And that is how the care point came to partner with her. And now she is on her. I mean, she can survive on her own as a result of partnering and working with. And that's where that sustainability piece is so important.
Right. Yeah. Yes, and those things are different, unique to the community, right? That's a truck route, and that's the challenge, that's the issue, and so so it could be different from care point to care point.
I really like that because I could see folks from our father getting excited on a sentimental level to be a part of making an impact in the life of a kid and their family. But yet to augment that, when to say, no, I'm a part of this larger community transformation with my church, in addition to my child that I'm sponsoring, to be able to be part of this whole bigger thing, to make an even larger impact and difference with my prayers and with my gifts and time.
Yes,
that's what was so attractive about Hope Chest. Like Mickey, how do you say his full name? His Ethiopian.
Mikias Taye. Yeah,
we call him Mickey, country director. He shared stats with us the first time I was there. Something like $6 trillion of U.S. aid or Western aid has come into Ethiopia since World War II. $6 trillion. At the same time, literacy rates have gone down, poverty rates have gone up, like all the metrics that you use to judge the successfulness of an aid program. And so to empower people, and this is across the world. There's so many books now and evidence that NGOs are failing because just giving money does not solve the root problem. And that's what I think Hope Chest is really about, is solving the root problem of poverty. And what's really behind the poverty. And so in the meantime, you said it, but I'll say it again, you're sponsoring a child, but you're really sponsoring a family, and you're really sponsoring a community. And then the local church, which we should talk about that walks alongside the financial aid. And so now there's gospel proclamation and there's spiritual transformation as well.
So you're saying really brass tacks, which is a phrase I use all the time.
I've heard you say it all the time.
There's sort of 3 levels. So when I'm thinking about how a random person from our father, not random, you're important, you're known, you're named.
Talking to you.
The average person in our father could say, hey, I'm interested in that. Micah, tell us a little bit about kind of ways for individual families or individual people, whether or not you're in a family, can connect with the work of Hope Chest that we're going to do at our father.
Yeah. Well, this will air the weekend of April 27th.
The clip, yeah.
March 4th is our launch Sunday. Atkelt's going to be here helping us do that. If you'd like to sponsor on a monthly basis, you can sponsor a child. It's $45 a month. But again, you're not just sponsoring the child, the family and the community transformation. $45 a month. And Atkelt, what does that get a child at the family with that sponsorship?
So it establishes the care point. And I collectively established the care points, providing academic support, nutrition, medical care, discipleship, socio-emotional help. So it's a holistic program for the children, in the community, but also it also helps reach out to the families, right? Like, there'd be like parenting school, establishing like self-help groups,
counseling,
and so those self-help groups are where, the families of like 15, 20, families come together as a support group where they get training, and but also just build trust and grow together. And so it goes above and beyond, like those core program that we run. Yeah. But basically, yeah, these are just kind of the main categories. As the children grow, though, right, we have like vocational skills and leadership trainings, because it would start like evolving. So there will be a lot of different programs for the children. So because our model is survive and then thrive and succeed, like in the beginning stages, meeting those survive, meeting those things. But then when you go to thrive, it's a lot of equipping them for success. And so those leadership and
the leadership academies,
life skill, the leadership academy, those are like really setting them up for success.
And that's thrive.
So that's thrive, right? Yeah. And succeed is, where there's a lot of empowerment. That's when, they are, it starts from the beginning, but the ownership becomes more real, so as they near graduation, so there's the community leadership or the community management team, so would be empowered, right, to take over. So there would be economic empowerment projects that would be fueling, funding for the sustainability of the care point. So it would be focusing on more those kinds of projects that will help the community become sustainable.
Well, let me pause real quick. So what Atkelt's talking about if you can't do $45 a month, and not everybody can, you should know that 10% of our offerings that we collect every Sunday goes towards our mission and benevolence projects. That includes multiple projects, of which Hope Chest is now one of them. In addition, we're going to be every once in a while doing special offerings to fund those community projects.
Right.
And so if you put $1 in the plate or you put $1,000 in the plate that weekend, it will go towards developing that project. We would encourage you to pray for the success of this, for God's blessing over it. That's one way you can contribute. And then finally, there'll be a chance yearly to go to Ethiopia on a relationship mission trip.
Right.
A little bit different idea of a mission trip than perhaps people are used to. What's the goal of those trips?
Yeah, so those trips are different from the typical mission trip where there is that mindset of doing things, right? Going and doing things, and but our we call them partner visits, for a reason, because you are going to your partner community, you're building relationships. So the focus of it is building relationship and going as a learner, and so that creates a lot of when you are on the ground with your friends, your brothers and sisters in Christ, that's where you really build strong connection throughout, right? Throughout the partnership. I like that we start from what the community needs. So we're not like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, or this is, but
the Western experts walk in with the magic formula,
right? Quick fix or things like that, but like really, go as a learner, primarily to encourage the things that God is doing in the community, see how God is using our partnership, right, to doing amazing things, see the progress, and encouraging them, coming alongside them. Your presence, right, being there with them means a lot to the community. So that's important and core. But then, it's like, okay, what does the community need? And there are programs. You talked about all these different programs. And so your team can come alongside whatever they are doing and what they need. And so there could be like a lot of different kinds of workshops, that it's like, we need you share your experience on,
starting a business.
It could be starting a business, it could be sports, or, could be teaching or things like that, so, but they would guide us in that. But also, who's going on the trip, like people who are like, hey, I really want to go there. And especially if you're connected with a friend, or your sponsor child, traditionally, so we call it a friend, then what are your skills, right? Like, are you a teacher? Are you a medical professional? So who is going on the trip that could be aligned with what the community needs.
Yeah.
And think of it also not only things that we do like VBS with the children, and that's but it's a community-wide event. So we would be spending time with the children, absolutely, with the church leaders, with the guardians or the families, and so it would be more of like a community-wide engagement. And they also want to host you. That's also the other thing, right? You are coming to visit us, and we want to host you. We want to teach you how we do things. We want to teach you our culture, right? And so that really enriches your engagement when you are in the community. So I love the way.
If you
how it
love
is set up.
coffee, you want to go on one of these trips. You have these amazing fresh brewed, fresh ground, fresh roasted, fresh brewed cup of coffee, and everywhere we go, you get that popcorn. That's a big thing.
Popcorn or the
bread.
roasted grains.
It's amazing.
Yes.
We should talk about, though, what is happening across the world. NGOs are learning from probably their failures of the past. It's way more effective for a church to send, let's just say, $20,000 to the local economy to have the local economy support the building of, say, a water kiosk, which is one of the projects that we saw, a school, a community center, instead of us spending $30,000 to send a crew of 10 people to do it and build ourselves. That's kind of how we used to approach mission trips. This is changing in the developing world, and it's really important because it's, again, sustainability and empowering. So I just want to take an opportunity to share that these changes or these trends that are happening. It's really cool.
Right.
So we've talked a lot about what Hope Chest does. Tell us a story of impact. What's something that you've experienced and seen on how this works and how God's blessing it?
Yes, I have a great story. So Al-Azhar, he grew up in Hosanna. So it's one of our care points in Ethiopia. So before he joined the care point, his parents got divorced, and so mom was left with four kids, and so right then he had to drop out of school, and so that was kind of his situation. But then when Hope Chest got into the community through their local church, then he got the opportunity to get enrolled and got back to school and got all the support like he needed, right? And so he did well at school. He had the potential. The care point staff would see that. They were encouraging him, to pursue that. And then he did well. And he actually did very well in his 12th grade national exam. That's a high school living exam, and got enrolled into a medical school. And so that's a long, year of study. And even through that, the CarePoint staff was with him, supporting him and encouraging him. And he graduated and became a medical doctor. And now he's serving, his community, and he's a role model for a lot of children, in his, situation. So they look up to him. So in addition to all the support, all the needs that are met for him, that consistent support. People who believed in him, who invested in him, is what sustained him, so that he could realize this potential. That could have easily been crushed. His dreams, his aspirations, because that's what probably he thought when his family.
There's no chance.
There was no chance, right? But then, he was able to pursue that and get to that. So that's just a beautiful story of Al-Azhar and how, his life got transformed because of this. Yeah. So we are also involved in Guatemala too. And there's a great story to tell there of Flory. She's a mom in one of our care points. And so she got into a savings group where, a group of, moms, 15, get together and start saving. And so they also have like a chicken coops project is what we call them. So they'll be provided with 15 hens and one rooster. And so there's like really good rules, like, you can't eat the chickens until like 7 months, and then you have to build, right? And then you have to build your own, the chicken coops, so that you have skin in the game. And so it's like a really beautiful program, for the parents to become financially, sustain themselves themselves financially and grow. And there's a lot of training and, that is given to the moms. So Flory took advantage of that very well. And she, she had a lot of chickens, and so I think at some point she had 80 chickens in her backyard. So because she knew what she took good care of the chickens, and it flourished. And so at Hope Chest Guatemala, one of the things is like forming a co-op, because these families need a place where they sell their eggs, their chicken, right? So this is done, I think, in 3 different care points, and that they decided to start a co-op. So there's a shop where the families are, bringing these eggs and these chickens, and so that's their marketplace. And so she excelled and really became an inspiration for a lot of families. She got involved with the co-op project. And now she's the vice president of the co-op. And so really integrating, like what's happening in the care points. And her story is just very inspiring in a way that she started small, but now she is a leader. She wouldn't have known, if she wasn't presented that opportunity. But now she's a leader of that effort.
So
that's
not
really
just self-sustaining, but also helping others become
empowering, right?
Yeah.
Empowering local leaders, and she's a leader in this effort now. So that I love that story of like not only children, but it also really empowers local leadership and our families in transforming their lives. Yeah.
Well, just really one last question that we talked about previously. With your work in impoverished nations, how do you personally deal with the amount of suffering that you see, knowing that you can't help everybody, you can't save everybody? How do you deal with that spiritually?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. Poverty alleviation is a hard work. It's very complex in nature, and also just like as you said, it's very wide, and there's a lot of brokenness and darkness, right? But I think the spiritual rhythm that can really help with that when you feel overwhelmed, and feel like you're carrying that burden, and it could be distracting, or you could be burned out, right? But thinking that Jesus has called us to be His hands and feet, and He is doing the work. He is the Savior. So sometimes we feel like, if I don't do this, but He is the Savior, and we're called into the harvest. So praying God to bring workers into this area where there's a lot of need, and also it's okay to lament, right? Like, because there's a lot of brokenness. It's sad, but also remember the promise, that Jesus promised that He will make everything new and that He will restore this. And then we are a part of this. We're partnering with Him to advance His kingdom in the world. That gives you so much. That relieves you, that He is in control. And in what Jesus said about like, you cannot do anything apart from me, right? So that seems like, okay, is that restrictive? But when you think about it, it is freeing, right? That He is working in and through us. So with prayer, even if we are lamenting with hope, being in the promises, the promise that Jesus gives, that He's redeeming and He's restoring the world. That gives so much hope to us. Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to land it. And Atkelt, thank you so much for taking the time to come up. We're going to be sharing more with the congregation on how they can get involved with Children's Hope Chest and our efforts to partner with the Care Point in Mojo, Ethiopia. But God bless your ministry, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this partnership and what God has in store, and how He's going to use it, right, to transform our Father Lutheran community and Mojo Care Point. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Micah, it struck me as we were talking with Atkelt that it could be that the family that and the kid that the Paraguays are going to sponsor is going to grow up someday to be just like Atkelt and making a difference in communities just like Mojo somewhere else. That I could be making a difference and he could be making a difference, this kid or she, someday,
Right.
just like he is.
Something that outlives yourself is really cool.
Yeah. Tell us about the different kind of ways that we at Our Father can connect to Children's Hope Chest and the work.
Yep.
Different levels, right?
So if you didn't hear it in the podcast, 3 levels. The first one is the sponsorship level. That's $45 a month, and that provides.
Wait, is this a multi-level marketing scheme we're talking about? Level 1,
but for the right reasons.
Yeah,
it doesn't benefit us.
Different layers.
Yeah.
First layer.
It's $45 a month to sponsor a child, and that is, if you heard Atkelt say, basic needs like food and clothing and medicine and schooling. In addition, though, it's more than just the child that's getting sponsored. It's an entire family. And more broadly speaking, the entire community. There's 150 kids in this care point. That means 150 families, 150 community members, plus however many are in their family, helping to no longer need aid from somebody like you, somebody like me.
Yeah, it's one child in each family from a family.
And we didn't talk about this in the podcast. Kind of unique to Hope Chest is you mentioned going to a concert, seeing Compassion International come down. That's where you pick a child. In this case, if you sign up to sponsor, we're going to take your picture. We're going to send it to the Care Point. A team from Our Father is going to go for the official Care Point opening.
And that's in when?
Like May 17th. Yep. And at that event, then the child will pick you to be their friend, to be their sponsor. So it empowers them from the very beginning that it's not just like people coming in and saving their lives. They have some skin in the game as well.
That's so cool.
And so then in June, the very end of June, you will meet the child who has picked you. We'll come back with photos, and there'll be a big celebration at church for all those who sponsor. You'll open up an envelope and meet this kid who, as you just said, could be the next Atkelt, could be the next Evian, who is the doctor, could be the next woman who's the head of the co-op of the chicken coop that Atkelt was talking about.
Yeah.
That's the first level. Maybe, though, you don't have $45 a month to spare. Economy is tight right now, and that might be a stretch for you. Another way that you can be involved is every year the community will develop a project that's unique to Mojo, something that they need. So, for example, it could be the creation of a water kiosk to provide clean water for the area. Could be a community center because there's no place to gather and build community. They will come to Our Father. We will raise the money that is needed to build that, or to help fund a microloan, for example. So even if you put $1 in the plate, 10% of our offerings every Sunday, every weekend goes out the door to mission partners like Hope Chest. There'll be a couple special offerings that we'll do throughout the next 10 or 15 years. You can give towards that. You can pray. That's also part of this. We would love for you to pray for the work that's happening there, for this community transformation. And then the third tier, you can actually go to Ethiopia on a mission trip. And Atkelt explained that just a little bit. It's not a traditional mission trip where we're going to go and paint and build something. We're going to build relationships to encourage one another. By our presence, they're encouraged. They've got a lot that they can teach us as well. So it's a two-handed thing.
Mm-hmm. It's not like, I said this really quickly, it's like the Western experts are going in to teach what we know that they don't, or to do VBS, or to build a house. Yeah. It's different.
Yeah,
partnership.
It's both and. I mean, we do have some experts in that sense that will go, but they also have experts that will pour into us. You know, the global church is also part of this third tier. The Makani Yesu denomination, it's a Lutheran denomination in Ethiopia, has just over 12 million members. It's the largest Lutheran denomination in the world, larger than the LCMS and the ELCA in America and Germany combined.
Wow. More Lutherans in
Ethiopia.
Just in Ethiopia than in the largest Lutheran pockets of the world.
My first visit to Mojo was 2 years ago, and the Lutheran church that we went to visit, where we thought the Care Point was going to be based out of, they have now grown. They have 3 satellite churches already started.
Since you were there?
Since I was there in 2 years, and with a plan to start 2 more in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So now our Care Point site has changed from the main campus to one of their satellite campuses.
Oh, wow.
They're growing so fast that the evangelists, they have a title in the church body called evangelists. They get so frustrated because there's not enough pastors to staff the churches that they have to stay behind and shepherd the people. They're so driven. They want to go on and start the next church.
Meanwhile, churches in America are just trying to survive in many cases.
Right.
Didn't you say something about how there's a Lutheran seminary that's connected to the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in the nation of Ethiopia that we're doing partnership with as a church body.
In Addis Ababa, the Lutheran seminary there. So there's this fancy theological phrase called altar and pulpit fellowship. That body is not part of that yet, although the LCMS is working on some of the issues there. However, their seminary is staffed by LCMS trained and Brazilian Lutheran Church, which is an affiliate of the LCMS, seminary professors who are now teaching these guys coming out of the seminary, and the deaconess program as well that's there. So we have a very strong relationship with the church body.
There's lots of denominational overlap,
Yeah.
Theological, parallel partnerships, but just in the kingdom at large too.
Yeah.
God's up to great things.
It's cool. Yeah, I like to imagine when, in Revelation 21, when John sees the vision of every tribe and every nation under heaven, this is just a wonderful example that the mission work we're doing in Honduras and Ethiopia, in Mexico, in various parts around the world. Think about how cool heaven's going to be. We walk in, we open the doors, and there, generations from now, depending on when Christ returns, we're going to see people that we don't know, but we know because of this work.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that because of Children's Hope Chest, we're going to know and see in heaven the two people, the stories he was talking about.
Yep. Amen. Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this very special episode of Our Father Stories, the Stories podcast. For more stories just like this one, go to ourfatherlutheran.net/stories.